ML Sports Take here, brought to you by Bonnet Sales and Service, CH Insurance, and our great friends over at Burn Dairy. Let's break down the Sabres Avalanche trade that went down. The Sabres sending Casey Middelstadt over to the Avalanche for Byram. And when it first happened, I kind of had mixed feelings, especially as a Sabres guy, considering that Casey Middelstadt has done everything in a Buffalo uniform they could ever ask of him. He's grown. He's become more of a two-way player. And right now, he's the leading scorer for the Buffalo Sabres. Well, at the time of the trade, he was the leading scorer for the Buffalo Sabres with 47 points in 62 games. But it was a really tricky situation with Casey Middelstadt. Number one, eventually with all this young talent of guys between 18 and 25 years of age, centermen and wingers, the Sabres, somebody had to go eventually. That's number one. Number two, and more importantly, Casey Middelstadt, by growing this much and being this much of a scorer this year, he priced himself out of Buffalo. There was no way, with all these other players the Sabres also have to pay, that they were going to be able to afford what the market looks like for him right now, which is $5 to $5.5 million minimum, upwards of $6 million to $7 million, or even a little bit more than that if a team wants to overpay. So that was another factor as well. The other part, well, I mean, he's obviously in the final year of his contract and all the rest. And what happens is, with the Sabres now, by trading Casey Middelstadt, it's a very simple 1-2 punch here, okay? It opens up opportunities for other young players, and it upgrades their defense core. And basically, the Sabres now, you've got Rasmus Dahlin, you have Owen Power, you've got Matthias Samuelsson, you have Henry Jokiharju, and you add now Byram, who was picked number 4 overall in the 2019 NHL draft. So, and he's got a season, I believe, left on that contract. So what you've done now is you've given an opportunity for a Peyton Krebs to step right in, put him next to some young players, including Zach Benson and others like we've seen already take place. And then you got to start calling these players up. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about all these Buffalo Sabre prospects, right? Oh, they're in the minors. They're getting ready. They're still young. Everybody's young in the NHL, for God's sakes. I mean, Byram's been in the league for 4 or 5 years, and Byram is only 22 years old. Everybody coming in from Sweden, from the Canadian leagues, from here, from there, coming in from college, wherever it might be. I guess probably in the United States, that's where they're a little bit older, because sometimes they get drafted, they're property of the team, and then they can ride out some more of their college years. That's where they actually become old compared to these other international players. But this made sense from a Buffalo standpoint. I had a lot of mixed feelings, but now I'm pretty much all the way in as a Sabre guy for this trade, because of just looking a little bit deeper into it. And for Colorado, it makes a lot of sense. They've already got Cal McCarr, Devin Taves, and Sam Girard over there, all puck-moving defensemen, which, by the way, Byram is. And you've got a situation here where they needed an answer somewhere around the NHL to their second-line center position ever since Nazem Kadri left in free agency. So this makes a lot of sense, and Chris McFarland, the GM over there, thinks that Middelstadt will be that guy as a second-line center, and you've got to love it if you're Middelstadt. I know he loved Buffalo and he loved his teammates, but you're going into an unbelievable hockey market as well, a cup contender. You're going to play with Nathan MacKinnon. You're going to play with Cal McCarr. You're going to play with a bunch of unbelievable guys, a great fan base like Buffalo as well. And apparently Byram was really excited, according to Kevin Adams, the GM of the Sabres, where he was like pumped up to, play with guys like Dylan Cousins and others, who he's known collectively since he's been the age of 8 years old. Krebs, is another guy he's known since he's been a really little kid too. I think 8 years old was what I read this morning. So really, it does make a lot of sense for both clubs. Casey Middelstadt was beloved in that locker room for Buffalo, had a lot of big-time friends. But Byram coming over now, you really get a piece that you were searching for anyway if you're Buffalo, which is another defenseman. I know they have a ton of lefty shooting guys, but this guy could be a stud. Now, there's only one problem with Byram, and he's got major concussion issues from the past. So you hope that those are in the past, and that's that. The ceilings are very interesting to look at as well. Could Middelstadt get better? He could. But right now, it looks like this might be Casey Middelstadt's ceiling. I don't know, but it really could be. But Byram hasn't even come close to hitting his ceiling at 22 years old. If he turns into another Dahlin, or he and Power together turn into another Dahlin, could you imagine that if the Sabres have 3 of the kind of Rasmus Dahlin production type players at defense, and it takes longer for defensemen to develop in the NHL than it does forwards, Holy cow. I mean, could you imagine that? Now, I know the Sabres are going to miss the playoffs again this year. It's been a wildly disappointing season and all the rest. But if you look at that defense core with Samuelsson, Power, Jokiharju, Dahlin, Byram, etc., you look at all those guys, if they all pop to become elite like Dahlin, this trade's going to be a home run for Kevyn Adams, and they probably want to re-sign him as well once they get a little bit more of a look at him for the duration of the rest of this contract. So a trade that makes sense for both teams, both Buffalo and Colorado. Mike Lindsley with you here. It's an ML Sports Take brought to you by Rosie's Corner, Brewerton Ace Hardware, Burn Dairy, and Jam and Beats. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel.